Joining us in the Movieland Spotlight is director Peter Weber, here to talk about his recent release, Dragn. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, for anyone who hasn't seen the movie yet, how do you best describe it for someone to watch?
Here we go. Let's say that it's a science fiction, action, thriller, proudly low budget, balls to the wall, sort of gory, noisy, entertaining, and just good dumb fun is what I would call it. For me, I was inspired really by films that I saw when I was a teenager in the 80s, you'd go into, back then it was like VHS, you go in sometimes, and then it transitioned to DVD, but you'd go into the local corner store on a Friday night with your mates, and then you'd have a look for basically it was all about the cover, so you'd get one film because the cover looked amazing because it had loads of gore on it, or some sexy woman on it, or a robot, or something like that. Ideally, all three, and often the movie, often actually the cover of the video or the DVD was better than the actual movie itself. But do you know what? I had so much fun doing that, sitting around with my mates, having a few beers or a smoke or whatever, and just the entertainment factor was incredible. And so this came along, and I just thought, do you know what? This really reminds me of that, and I'd like at least once in my life to make something that's not quite so serious, and is just good, nasty fun. So that's what it's all about.
You just struck a core memory with me. Like back in those days when the video store, you couldn't access the trailer, so you had to take, a hit or miss on this looks really good, but I'm kind of nervous about it. But
Dragn. There's a friend of mine. He's a great filmmaker of this movie, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and he never actually got. His father forbade him to see these films, so he would just see the covers and imagine what they might be like, and then he said that's what's inspired him to make his films ever since. So I got to see them, but that did strike a chord with me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, this film taps into modern fears around the AI. Was that always the heart of the story for you?
Well, yeah. The thing is that there's a lot. Before this script landed on my desk, I've been really fascinated by AI. I don't want to get too pointy-headed about all of this because the film is not like some grand intellectual discussion of the dangers of AI. It's much more basic than that, much more brutal than that. But I had watched an awful lot of the footage that you can see on certain Telegram channels of drones hunting soldiers down and killing them, and it was just fascinating in an awful way. They're kind of verging on being snuff movies, and something about this idea of this inanimate machine that could hunt you down. So that's like the drone side of it, if you like. And then on top of that, the AI thing, obviously we've been hearing more and more, and there are all of these people professing doom and destruction, possibly destruction of the entire human race, so maybe AI is going to be Skynet, I don't know, and we're all going to be in some Terminator type universe, but that is very, very much in the air. And so the combination of the drone and the AI together, just press a few buttons, but it's not, if you're looking for a serious discussion of the perils of AI, this is not that movie, all right?
Gotcha. Yeah, well, you've worked across drama, horror, history, and documentary, like Girl with a Pearl Earring and Hannibal Rising, to name a few. What excited you most about stepping into this kind of high-concept sci-fi thriller?
Well, the thing is that it's, this was, as I said beforehand, this was made with an ultra-low budget. It was ready to go. I had some time in my schedule. The script stuck a chord, and and we shot this in like 2 weeks. So it was really kind of a balls to the wall sort of a shoot. And for me, that was a great challenge, just to get out there and make a film like back in my student days where you just had to run and gun and shoot it, and hopefully some of the energy of that is actually, you can actually feel in the frames of the film. And as a filmmaker, it's good to have challenges. A lot of other projects take a long time with gestation. There's a lot of planning, and this one was like guerrilla style, basically. So when I went into it, I mean, the traditional, or now, not the traditional way, but contemporary way of doing something like this would be to do it all with computer graphics and stuff. And we just didn't have the budget to do that. And that's the thing. It tipped me over even more, because I thought, right, what can I do to make this work? And so I hired this great production designer, Joseph Hodges, and started working with him, and we decided that we were going to do it like old school. We'd do the whole thing. If the whole thing is inspired by that old school sensibility, that 80s sensibility. So we built we built the drone. So we had a practical drone on set, and we had a few special effects afterwards, but not so much. So in that way, it's a real throwback. And it was a ridiculous, crazy shoot. I mean, there were moments when you thought, right, are we actually going to finish this thing or not? But we got it done, and thanks to the excellent Serbian crew, because basically part of the budget requirements meant that we couldn't afford to bring anyone in. The only people from outside, apart from the actors, obviously an international cast, there was me and there was Joseph, production designer. Everyone else were locals, and I really like that, coming in and working with locals. You get passion, you get enthusiasm. And yeah. So it was a buzz, and it was over, in and out like that.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear that the drone was practical. Want to know a little bit more about it. Like, what was it like bringing it to life, like the design and controlling it on set?
Well, Joseph and I spent a long time going back and forth and trying to decide what we were going to do, because, on the one hand, you could do something which ties in with current drone design. Yeah, and that could be a very kind of impersonal sort of, I don't know what you would say, sort of machine-like thing. But it seemed to us that the drone, our monster, basically had to have some kind of personality to it as well. And so we went in a more organic, stylish direction. I think that it feels like it's somewhere between a robot and, I don't know, like a scorpion, or So we were bringing in all of these organic references, and we're just trying to make, to be honest, trying to make something that looked a bit gnarly and a bit cool, which I think we succeeded. What you don't see, of course, because we painted them out, there was the one bit of VFX we had, is that the drone is like this big, it's like a giant Lego kit or something like that. I mean, not literally blocks and stuff, but it's pieced together from all this stuff, 3D printed. It had rotors and stuff in it, and hydraulics, so it could move stuff around, so we could kind of puppeteer it. And then it was hung from a tube. You can see this. I think there's a behind the scenes somewhere on the internet, or on the movie website, and it hung on a pole like this, which went out to a what's it called, like a jib arm, so
Right.
we could move it into shot and out, but we had certain restrictions, because we could move forward like that, we could do it in an arc like that, so just like and we had movie grips, kind of moving it in, all the rest of it. Sometimes, of course, it's just, there are some moments where you go, oh my god, this doesn't work at all, this is ridiculous, and it has its limitations, but in a way the limitations are part of the fun. The whole thing was to make something as fun as possible. We can't possibly compete with the $250 million budgets that you get in Hollywood, and where you're spending gazillions on all these VFX. But there's something about having a machine tangibly there for your actors to interact with, and you can see exactly what you're getting, and not then spend months and months and months fiddling around with a bunch of pixel fuckers, pardon my French, trying to get everything right. We did actually use an Australian VFX company in the end to
Cool.
help us kind of tidy it up and everything. So there is a strong Australian connection to the movie. So it was, I'm glad we did it that way. It would have been, for all that this kind of modern technology is great, as a filmmaker, it's also slightly tedious, I have to say. You're going back and forth, iterations, and trying to get it right, and just to be able to wheel the machine in and look at it and make sure it's lit and everything is, it just means you can shoot it and move on. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, were there any classic thrillers or creature features that inspired the tone of the film?
There's various really super low budget kind of cheesy horror films that I like Phantasm. I don't know if you know Phantasm, for
Yeah.
example. Obviously, there's a little touch of Predator in there without the
Yeah.
budget. There's a little touch of Terminator in there, once again, without the budget. So it was indebted to those. And there's a whole slew. I can't remember a lot of the names, because they're lost in a haze of smoke and alcohol from the 80s. Often these movies they might be low budget American, they might be Italian, whatever. But there's a certain kind of, I don't know what you would say. There's a certain kind of sensibility, a certain kind of ethos, and that's really what I was going. I mean, even a little bit of Trauma, if you know Trauma movies,
Yeah.
there's a touch of that in there as well. I love all that stuff. I like all the highfalutin, high-end stuff. Like I did Girl with the Pearl Earring. It's, Scarlett Johansson, Colin Firth, 17th century paintings, all the rest of it. But, you don't, it's like you don't want to eat the same meal all the time. Sometimes I like to do high-end cultural stuff, and other times I just like to please the inner teenager. That's a great thing about my job. And that's what this one was all about, was pressing those trashy buttons.
Yeah, I definitely got that Predator and Terminator vibe from there, but it's all good. Love those films a lot, so it hooked me in all the way. But yeah, with all the blood, gore, and violence, curious, what was the most difficult sequence to shoot from a technical point of view?
Two that I can think of. There's one where one of the characters, I won't give too many spoilers, is impaled on this very nasty piece of old military equipment. And so we had to come up with this, like this giant thing through his stomach and slather him in blood. It wasn't that comfortable for him. That was hard. But maybe the hardest was the sort of end of level boss stuff, I mean, that's the other thing. I did mean to mention that it's also indebted to the video games that I used to play.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about way back before PlayStation and stuff, when it was really, when it was all pretty simplistic stuff. And so we only had a few days just to do this final confrontation before our lead and the monster. So he had to work like crazy. It was physically very, very difficult for him, that last section, and we didn't have much time. I mean, normally those sequences you'd take weeks and weeks over.
Yeah,
we had to do it in a couple of days. Which has its own gives it its own energy. But I think that was probably the trickiest of them.
it all looked amazing, and the cast amazing as well. Includes James Paxton, to my surprise, which is actually Bill Paxton's son. Yeah. How was it working with him?
One thing, sorry, if I could just interrupt you. That was one of the things I only found out after I cast James. He's a great actor and a lovely human being. Is that his father is the only actor to have been killed by, like fictionally, killed by Alien, killed by Terminator, and killed by Predator. I think those are the three. So part of my pitch to James was that he was getting revenge on his father because he actually, let me not give the end away. But he has a good chance of surviving. I'll put that. So he gets to avenge his father. He's a great guy, James, and we really, given the amount of work he had to do in such a short space of time, he really did well. But another good bunch of actors as well.
Without giving too much away, what do you hope audiences will be thinking about after the credits roll?
Anyone who's interested in AI or drones, whatever, there are other places to go, to read, to watch, to kind of talk about the serious, weighty stuff. I mean, this is more if you are into action, adventure, gore, that, all of that. If you like buckets of blood, I mean, that's who. Like I said, it's aimed fairly and squarely. When I was making this, I, in a way, took out my adult brain and put in my teenage brain and thought, what would the teenage me like to see? Okay, so that's really, it's more about the visceral feels that you get in the moment. Right? I mean, listen, I could sit here and I could talk to you for half an hour with all the, highfalutin intellectual stuff, but it would misrepresent this film and what it's about. It's not a chin stroking kind of disquisition on the dangers of drones and artificial intelligence. There's other films you can go to for that.
It's a lot of blood and fun. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope what it does do, I hope that it taps into some of the fears that are in the air about this. But that's really more what it's about. It's about articulating some kind of sense of dread or some kind of sense of unease as we face this technology that, frankly, we don't have any control over, any agency over. It's these guys like Elon Musk and Sam Altman and the rest of them who, to me, are just like science fiction bad guys anyway. I mean, it's amazing how life seems to be how art seems to be mirroring life now, or life seems to be mirroring art. Let me put it that way. So and it should tap into that. And there's been a long history of movies doing that. I mean, really, even if you go back to Metropolis, Fritz Lang, one of the first major science fiction films ever made, that tapped into fears of mechanization and the rest of it. So I think movies have always been a way for us to confront our fears, or frankly, for filmmakers to capitalize on those fears. So in that way. I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of an exploitation movie. I mean, I'm very inspired by the career of Roger Corman and the stuff that he did. And they were essentially drive-in movies, some of which are amazing, a lot of which are trashy, but some are amazing. But I always liked his ethos and his sensibility. And, Corman was a guy who gave a start to some great directors. Coppola, I think, did his first film with him, Joe Dante, so on and so forth. I mean, a lot of really good filmmakers, started off in that low budget space.
Gotcha. Well, here at Movieland, we love recommending movies. That, and honestly, I can't get enough to watch. So can you give us 6 movies to watch? Old, new, sky's the limit.
All right. Let me do sort of the range. I mean, I think in this area, obviously you've got to see an Alien movie. Okay. But I mean and I think,
what would be your favorite though?
It would be somewhere between. I mean, I think probably I'm a purist. I would choose the first Alien film, but I have a lot of time for the second one, the James Cameron one, which is a great gun movie. I think those two are the best. After that, there are some interesting ones, but they're not as not as much for me.
Romulus wasn't too bad. I don't know if you've seen that.
No. I think there's I've seen them all. And I think there's some good stuff in there. But if I had to choose, going off to a desert island, it's the first two that I'd choose. And if I really had to choose, I'd choose the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to suggest some left field ones because people, obviously everyone knows Predator, everyone knows Terminator, blah blah blah. One of the scariest and weirdest films I've ever seen. There is it's English language. There's a Polish filmmaker, Zulawski, who made this film Possession. It's got Sam Neill and Isabella Gianni in it. And it is just the weirdest monster movie that you've ever seen in your entire life. It won't be to everyone's taste. And it keeps switching genres, but watch it and stick with it to the end because it is bonkers, crazy fun. Maybe slightly tipping more to the art house end of it. Okay, the next one I'm going to recommend, there is a film by Tarkovsky, the Russian filmmaker, and it's called Stalker, which is a science fiction film about a zone. I really like zone movies, and our film is a zone movie. We have an area, people go into it, and it's like the rules are like Annihilation was partly like that. And the rules are different inside the zone to outside the zone. Now, I think the granddaddy of all those films is one called Stalker. This is not for everyone because it's 3 hours and it's incredibly atmospheric and I think incredibly strong. But you have to be in the mood for a bit of heavy Russian philosophy as well. So don't watch it. Go, if you're expecting to see something kind of snappy and entertaining. But if you do watch it and you get into it, it'll blow your mind. Yeah. I mean, I'm now going to think back to some of the films that I loved when I was a teenager. I remember watching Clockwork Orange, the Kubrick film. It's kind of dated. Some of the sexual politics are a bit off. But there's central performance by Malcolm McDowell and the whole kind of 1960s futuristic thing. Super interesting. Definitely worth checking out.
I'm still yet to watch it. I'm very aware of it. And I'm pretty sure another film I like is inspired by it called Disturbing Behavior. It's where they manipulate kids' minds and behaviors. Is that kind of what the general plot is?
Yeah. It is. But, 1960s, back in the day. So some of it might seem a bit creaky now, but Kubrick's such a good filmmaker. It's got such good stuff in there. So again, it's sort of a 1960s vision of what the future might be like.
Right.
I love the language and everything in it because he invented his own language. It's partly based on Russian, which was the slang that this gang speak to each other. The other film, this is probably one of the scariest films I've ever seen. There's one by a director, I think his name is George Slicer. It's called The Vanishing. So I'd recommend that as well. It's about a woman, a man and a woman, boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe they're married, I can't remember, go on a road trip, and he stops to gas up his car, and the woman disappears. And it's kind of about what happens to the woman and the guy who's searching for her. It's fucking terrifying. I mean, that was one of the few movies where I came out of the cinema and got into my car to drive home. You know, before I did that, I was like looking, literally checking in the in the boot, the trunk, whatever you want to call it, and looking in the back seat of the car. So, but be careful. Make sure you watch the Dutch original. It was remade. There's an American remake, which I don't think is as good. And then finally, I'll recommend a vampire movie. Let the Right One In. But again, watch the original, which is, I think, Norwegian, maybe Swedish. I think it's Norwegian, and it's like a teen vampire movie. You know, that's great. And then another one which isn't quite so well known. There's a movie called Ginger Snaps. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I love Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, Ginger Snaps. Can't say that is great. So anyway, there's a few. The ones, the more difficult ones, I would say Tarkovsky and Zulawski. The other ones are a bit easier. I guess the final one I'll say is because I watched it so often. There's one of the first VHSs I ever got was Apocalypse Now, and that's a movie that I've watched again and again and again and again, and it's kind of run in the background and everything. So Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is a low-budget sci-fi film, fucking strange, not got the most compulsive plot, but the mood and the atmosphere and just the whole vibe of it is incredible. Definitely worth checking out. And Mandy, the film that he made just after that, with Nicolas Cage giving one of his trademark bonkers performances, which is a revenge story with Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough in it. And that's worth a watch as well. So there you go. There's a bunch. In there, that's everything from crowd-pleasing populist stuff to, the most pointy-headed movie you'll ever see in your life, which is Stalker.
Yeah, some great recommendations there, and some definitely on my watch list now to watch, so appreciate that. All right, so to everyone watching at home, Dragn is available to rent or buy on digital or on DVD now. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Peter. I wish you all the best with Dragn and beyond.
Okay, thank you very much. Great pleasure talking to you.